In this video, we'll have a look at recreating the demo project that I've demoed in the previous video. So to do that, we'll need, I've just opened up Unreal 4.22 in the new project screen here, and I'm selecting Blueprint and a blank project. I've set it up for desktop console, maximum quality, and I'm not using any starter content for this demo. To keep things light and small. So I'm gonna put SteamVR input plugin, and since I already have that, which is the name of the demo project, so SteamVR input demo, I'm just gonna click create project. What I want to show you here is like a typical workflow of how to use the input plugin. So just gonna maximize that in there. And the first thing that we're gonna be doing is obviously ensuring that the plugin is enabled for the project. So settings, plugins, and just click enable. It should ask us, give you this warning because we've tagged it as a beta for now. Click yes, restart now. All right, once that's enabled, you can quickly see from toolbar that we've got the extra icon here and a couple of settings in there. Just maximize that and close this, and that should confirm that the plugin is enabled for this project. What would be helpful is if you click on the view options, just make sure that show engine content and show plugin content is ticked, and so that when you click on content here and scroll down, you should be able to see SteamVR input content with the sample stuff that we've made for you folks. So you can see two maps here. One is SteamVR hands and the other one uses just a regular UE hands. So let me just open SteamVR hands because this is what we've set up the sample project to default to, and we're just going to recreate that sample project. So let's set up the default maps in this project. So settings, project settings, and project maps and modes. All right, so you could see the editor startup and the game default map in there. I'm just gonna quickly drag and drop those in there. And the next thing is to be able to set up the actual input. So what the plugin actually relies on is if you click on settings, project settings, and then engine input, is what we call the bindings. As you can see here, there are no action mappings or no axis mappings. In Unreal Engine, some of you might already know this, is that you can map individual controller keys to specific actions so that you can use different controller inputs and map them to the same action as an action event or an action input event or an axis input event. In SteamVR input, under config, you would see SteamVR bindings, and automatically will generate for you a couple of stuff, the typical controllers that we support, as well as an action manifest in JSON files. You don't need to read this JSON files while using the plugin, but I'll just want to quickly show you how it actually looks like before we do anything. I'm using Visual Studio Code here. All right, so just click SteamVR manifest, and you can see that we've already defaulted the controller types of the plugin supports. So we've got Index HMD, Knuckles, Vive, controllers and trackers, and got some localization there. Pretty much empty, so other than these. And if you go to, let's go to Knuckles, right? So we do default a couple of actions here. The poses are actually just for the tracking of the orientation and position of the trackers. So we've hard-coded that in, just the skeleton handles as well as the haptics. So those are pre-set up for you for any of these controllers, right? But basically they don't have any actions because we haven't actually set up any actions. Yeah, just open that up, right? So there's actually no actions in there. So an easy way to see sample or range of samples of action and axis mappings is obviously from the demo project, but we wouldn't be doing that manually here. Take us a bit of time to do that, but what we've done is we've created this menu item here. So if you click SteamVR input and click on add sample inputs, you should see now that the action mappings are there. So for example, fire arrow left can be triggered using different controllers. and different buttons for different controllers, which is one of the more powerful things that we're introducing here with the new SteamVR input, as well as being able to remap the bindings. Right? So grab, for example, in the Oculus Touch, will be using the grip. In the HTC Vive, you probably don't want to do that, just because the Vive controller's grip isn't as nice for gripping. But here we're using the trigger, for example. So you could do that kind of combination, which you otherwise would otherwise be a bit you have to code it on your own in the game. So we've exposed a lot of the different controllers. So with the SteamVR, you could see all of the supported controllers and the different buttons for them. So since we've used that, it'll just put all of those in and makes sure that the sample maps that we have included in the plugin itself will actually work. So once that's done, we need to have all of these inside Unreal generate the JSON files. So all of those actions need to be reflected onto this JSON files here. So I promised you that you won't need to touch those JSON files. You just need to do is SteamVR input, regenerate the action manifest. Now, if we go back to the JSON files, we should be able to see here the actions. If we can reload it. Oh, sorry, we've only done the action manifest, so obviously there's still nothing in there. But in the SteamVR manifest, we should be able to see all of those actions. As you could see, we have vibrate, fire arrow left, fire arrow right. So we basically defined all of the actions that you could map within SteamVR. So now the next step is to be able to map all of these actions into the individual controllers. So this is why we actually have different controllers here, so that we know what the developer actually wants to do without any extra coding from your end. All right, so let's do that. If I do SteamVR input, we generate controller bindings. Open up this one. Let's go to Knuckles. So you could immediately see that we now have grab and the different actions already pre-mapped for you. So now if I go to SteamVR devices, controller, we could have all of these in here. And you should be able to see them mapped. If that gives you a bit of trouble, just make sure you reload the action manifest for SteamVR to recognize it. Otherwise, you should be able to see bindings here. So right now I'm using index controllers, and we're just looking at the different bindings here. And you can obviously do your own mappings or remap things in here as you please. And just click replace default binding. So this overwrites all of the bindings for the specific controller in your JSON files in here. So if you don't see this replace default binding or a lot of the buttons that you could see from my screen here, what you need to do is click on here. Let's go to settings, go to developer, and make sure that enable debugging options in the input binding user interface is actually ticked. And that should show those in there. So that's where that setting is located. Another nice thing with this window is the input debugger, right? And you could see all of the inputs in real time, which ones have actually been properly bound, as you can see here, and which, let me just enable one of my controllers again, a sec. And you could see in real time, once my base station sees my stuff, I could actually put stuff in here and see if I've been triggering stuff in there as well, right? So it's pretty powerful for debugging your applications. Another way to open this dashboard is if you go to the SteamVR input and launch SteamVR bindings dashboard, you should be able to launch that, edit, and voila, you should be able to see exactly the same thing as you would have done from here. Devices, controller settings. Alrighty, so that's how to recreate the demo project, and maybe just to actually show you that it works. It's just to do that quickly, Shift F1, move that in there, that, and just could see my hands moving. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we'll have a closer look at the actions, right? Engine input and actions. I'm going to explain a little bit about the action mappings and explain how they actually work in a little bit more detail than what I've covered in this video. All right, so thanks folks, and see you in the next video.